For decades, the prophecies of a blind mystic from a small Bulgarian village were written off as tabloid fodder, the kind of thing you'd only find in sensational magazines or on late-night internet forums. Her name was Baba Vanga, and she spoke of a future filled with turmoil and massive change. She saw nations rise and fall, natural disasters reshaping the planet, and political firestorms burning across continents. To most, it all sounded like a distant, impossible fairy tale. But as we try to make sense of our modern world, a disturbing question keeps coming up. What if she was right? What if her visions for America, a nation she supposedly saw teetering on the edge of a major crisis, are no longer just a warning, but our reality unfolding right now? Today, we're looking into the shadows to uncover Baba Vanga's final warnings for the United States. We're talking about visions of a great divide, economic disaster, and a conflict so deep it could tear the nation apart. Are the chaotic events of today the signs she warned us about? The answers, it seems, are starting to become hauntingly clear. To really get the weight of her prophecies, you have to understand the woman who made them. Born Vangelia Pandeva-Gushterova in 1911, Baba Vanga's life was pretty normal until one day when she was 12. According to legend, a freak tornado ripped through her village, lifted her into the air, and tossed her into a field. When they found her, her eyes were sealed shut with dust and dirt, leaving her permanently blind. But in losing her sight, Vanga claimed she was given a different kind of vision, the ability to see the future. She never wrote a single thing down. Her prophecies were passed down by word of mouth, recorded by the people who traveled to her tiny village seeking advice. This is key because it wraps her entire legacy in a layer of mystery and doubt. In fact, many people close to her insist she never made some of the wildest predictions people now claim she did. Her legacy is a mix of faith and hearsay, making it almost impossible to separate fact from fiction. Still, her reputation as a psychic exploded, mostly thanks to predictions that seemed shockingly accurate after the fact. The most famous is her supposed vision of the September 11th attacks. Back in 1989, she allegedly warned, "Horror, horror, the American brethren will fall after being attacked by the steel birds. The wolves will be howling in a bush, and innocent blood will be gushing." Believers say this is undeniable proof. Steel birds must be the planes, and a bush is seen as a nod to President George W. Bush. But here's the catch. Skeptics point out that this quote only started circulating after the attacks, and there's no credible record of her saying it before 2001. It's a pattern you see again and again. A vague statement gets matched to a huge world event after it happens, creating the illusion of a perfect prophecy. Another one you always hear about is her prediction of the sinking of the Russian submarine Kursk in 2000. She supposedly said in 1980 that Kursk will be covered with water and the whole world will weep over it. When the sub sank 20 years later, this prophecy was brought up and cemented her fame. But again, researchers and even Vanga's friends have cast doubt, suggesting it was another case of fitting the facts after the event, especially since Kursk is also the name of a large Russian city, and that widely cited claim that Vanga had an 85% accuracy rate, it's impossible to prove. No scientific group or official record backs this up. It's a number that seems to have been repeated by believers and sensational media until it's stuck. She also had some big misses, like a predicted nuclear war from 2010 to 2016 that would empty Europe, or that the 1994 World Cup final would be played by two teams starting with the letter B. This gets us to the heart of the Baba Vanga mystery. It's a tangled web of vague but documented statements, mixed with a whole lot of myths, rumors, and internet fabrications. Figuring out what she actually said is the first step to understanding her visions for America. And it's in that fog of uncertainty that we have to look for the truth. Maybe the most powerful of Vanga's visions for America today is her prophecy of a great divide. She allegedly warned of a time when the nation would be torn apart by internal conflict, a split in society so deep it would spiral into something dangerous. One of the most specific, and therefore most suspicious phrases attributed to her, is a warning that conflicts between North and South states will escalate. The vision is of a nation that turns on itself. She reportedly saw a time when trust in leaders would completely disappear, and political division would hit a boiling point. The American people, no longer united, would find themselves on opposite sides of a giant canyon of anger and mistrust. She warned the eagle, that iconic symbol of the United States, would be brought down not by a foreign enemy, but by its own internal strife. When you look at the social and political landscape in the United States right now, those words can feel a little too real. The country is wrestling with extreme political polarization, where screaming matches have replaced dialogue and finding common ground feels like a forgotten art. The idea of states turning against each other, something that seemed like a ghost from the Civil War, doesn't feel so impossible anymore. But, just like her other prophecies, the details are fuzzy. There's no credible primary source that proves Baba Vanga ever said anything so specific about North and South states in America. This phrase, a lot like the Steelbirds quote, seems to have popped up in news articles and online forums long after her death, perfectly tailored to fit our modern fears. What's more likely is that Vanga spoke in broader symbolic terms about a powerful nation facing a crisis of unity, a theme that could fit dozens of countries throughout history. Her prophecy about the 44th United States president is a perfect example. She is widely credited with predicting that the 44th president would be African American. But that prediction was often tied to a much darker one, that he would be the last United States president. When Barack Obama left office and Donald Trump took his place, that prophecy was obviously debunked, but some believers just moved the goalposts. They now argue last president didn't mean the end of the presidency, but the end of an era of American unity. In this view, his presidency was the turning point, launching the very conflicts she supposedly foresaw. It's a classic move with Vanga's prophecies. They're just vague enough to be bent and reshaped to fit any new reality. So, did Vanga really see a future American Civil War? Or did she just give a general warning about division that we're now mapping onto our own times? The line between prophecy and interpretation is so blurry, it leaves us with a chilling question. Are we fulfilling her vision, or are we just projecting our own fears onto her words? Beyond politics and social breakdown, Baba Vanga's visions often took a dark turn into the terrifying power of nature. She reportedly warned of an age of catastrophic natural disasters where the planet itself would seem to rebel against us. Her prophecies mentioned shattering earthquakes, biblical floods, and bizarre, unpredictable weather that would throw the world into chaos. For America, these warnings feel especially grim. While many of her environmental predictions were global, some interpretations point to specific threats for the United States. One of the most common claims is that she foresaw a massive earthquake on the United States West Coast, an event that would cause unimaginable chaos. This vision lines up perfectly with scientific worries about the San Andreas Fault and the constant threat of the Big One in California. The thought that a blind mystic from a Bulgarian village could have seen a specific geological threat is for some absolutely terrifying. She also supposedly described a time when familiar landscapes would be scarred by nature's rage. She spoke of massive wildfires, torching huge territories, and hurricanes with terrifying strength, slamming into coastlines. These images hit close to home today, as America faces a new reality of more intense and frequent natural disasters. The yearly fire seasons on the West Coast, the stronger hurricanes in the Atlantic, and the once-in-a-century floods that now seem to happen every few years, it all looks a lot like the apocalyptic scenes she painted. Her visions of a world off-kilter also included dramatic changes in water levels. She spoke of rising seas, swallowing coastal cities, and severe droughts turning fertile farmland into dust. These two threats, too much water here, not enough there, mirror the stark reality of the current climate crisis. But with anything Vanga, you have to be careful. The prophecy of a specific West Coast earthquake, for example, has no solid proof from her lifetime. It's far more likely she spoke in general terms about the earth trembling and of great disasters, warnings so broad they could apply to almost any major natural event, anywhere. The vagueness is what gives them power, allowing each new generation to see their own fears reflected in her words. Skeptics argue that linking her visions to climate change is just confirmation bias. We live in an era where the effects of climate change are all over the news. It's only natural to find parallels in old prophecies about ecological doom. In that sense, Vanga might not have been a seer, but just a sharp observer of patterns or a voice for the universal fears that have always haunted humanity. Whether her visions were a true glimpse of our future or just a reflection of timeless fears, you can't deny the eerie connection. As people scroll through images of cities choked by smoke and towns flattened by storms, the words of Baba Vanga feel chillingly relevant. She warned of a time when nature would unleash its fury, and for many, that time is now. The prophecies we've covered so far are pretty unsettling, and that's just scratching the surface of what's been credited to Baba Vanga. Are you seeing these signs in the world around you? Let me know what you think in the comments. Is this all just a coincidence, or is a dark prophecy coming true? And while you're there, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell, because the warning we're about to get into is her most dire one yet for America's future. On top of social division and natural disasters, Baba Vanga's prophecies allegedly included a severe warning about the world's financial future, with huge implications for the United States. She is said to have seen a massive economic crisis that would shake the very foundations of global power, a day of financial reckoning that would leave nations in chaos and people struggling to survive. According to some tellings, she predicted this crisis would hit the United States particularly hard. One report claims she saw a moment when America's financial power would completely fall apart, warning that America would shake when its gold devalued and the dollar would become a shadow of the past. This vision points to a future where the United States dollar, the cornerstone of the global economy for almost a century, loses its power, triggering a catastrophic collapse. For 2025, specifically, some sources attribute a prediction of a massive economic crisis in the United States to her. Others talk about a cash crush in 2026, where money systems, both physical and digital, could fail. This prophecy hits a nerve. With soaring national debt, stubborn inflation, and growing worries about how stable global markets really are, the idea of a huge economic collapse doesn't sound so far-fetched. Families across the country are already feeling the squeeze of rising prices and financial uncertainty. Vanga's visions supposedly painted this decline not as a single event, but as a slow rot of stability that ends in a sudden, brutal shock. This story matches the fears of many economists who warn that the current system can't last forever. The prophecy suggests a world where the United States is no longer the undisputed economic champ, leaving it vulnerable to shocks that could tear down its prosperity. But it's crucial to be just as skeptical here. The most specific claims, like the dollar becoming a shadow of the past, are usually the ones with the least proof. Most credible looks at her prophecies say her economic warnings were about a global crisis, not one aimed squarely at the United States. For instance, her 2025 prophecies often mention a major conflict in Europe that causes economic devastation and leaves the continent sparsely populated, which would naturally send shockwaves across the entire world, including the United States. The story of a United States-only collapse seems to be a newer spin, reshaped to fit American fears. The prophecy's power is in how easily it can be adapted. As economic tensions rise between the United States and other powers like China, and as talk of de-dollarization gets louder, Vanga's vague warnings about a shift in global power can be molded to fit today's headlines. Once again, we're stuck between prophecy and psychology. Did Baba Vanga see the American economy's downfall, or did she just voice a universal fear of financial ruin that hits home for any society facing uncertain times? The answer is hard to pin down. But as the world tries to navigate a shaky global economy, her warnings, real or not, are a chilling reminder that the prosperity we take for granted might be a lot more fragile than we think. All of Baba Vanga's supposed visions for America, the division, the disasters, the economic downfall, all lead to one terrifying endpoint: a final warning about the nation's ultimate fate. This isn't a prophecy about being invaded or defeated by another country. It's a vision of an implosion, a collapse caused by America's own inner demons. This is maybe her most chilling and all-encompassing prediction for the United States. She allegedly described a nation where the very institutions that keep things stable would start to buckle and fall apart. The unity that once held the country together would be replaced by widespread fear, suspicion, and paranoia. In this chaos, she saw leaders rising who wouldn't heal the divides, but would actually use them for their own power, throwing fuel on the fire of instability. This crisis of leadership, she warned, would be the final nail in the coffin, leaving the American people feeling abandoned and lost in a fog of misinformation. This prophecy of an internal collapse is tied directly to her vision of the last president. As we talked about, the claim that Barack Obama would be the final United States president turned out to be wrong. But the prophecy didn't die. It just changed. Some interpreters now say its meaning was symbolic, that his presidency marked the end of the United States as we knew it. After him, a new type of leader would come, a messianic personality, who would face a crisis that would bring the country down. Some have connected this to the chaotic presidency of Donald Trump, suggesting the conflicts between North and South states she allegedly mentioned would explode under his watch. The turmoil that has gripped American politics in recent years from election battles to violent protests, seems to fall right in line with her vision of a nation coming apart at the seams. This final warning isn't about one single event, but a slow process of decay. It's the social fabric unraveling thread by thread, where trust is broken and the country fractures along ideological lines. The implosion from within is the grand finale of all her other prophecies. A society already weak from division, beaten down by disasters, and gutted by economic hardship, finally hits its breaking point. It's more important than ever to remember what these prophecies really are. There is no definitive written record of Baba Vanga spelling out this detailed timeline for America's doom. What we have is a collection of stories passed down through generations, second-hand accounts, and internet rumors, all stitched together into a story that's captivating but completely unverified. The prophecies are just vague enough to be reinterpreted forever, making them a perfect mirror for the anxieties of any era. And yet, you can't deny the power of this final warning. It taps into a deep-seated fear that the biggest threat to America isn't a foreign enemy, but the loss of its own identity and unity. It makes us ask uncomfortable questions about where the nation is heading. Are the bitter political divides, the loss of trust in our institutions, and the constant social unrest just the first tremors of the implosion she saw coming? We've traveled through the cryptic and often contradictory world of Baba Vanga's prophecies. We've looked at her visions of a divided America, a nation beaten down by nature's fury, and a society on the verge of collapse from economic ruin and internal conflict. We've also waded through the murky waters of what she might have actually said versus what's been made up over the years. Through it all, a clear pattern shows up. The most specific and dramatic predictions are almost always the hardest to prove, often popping up only after the events they supposedly predicted. Her real power seems to lie in how vague her visions were. Symbolic warnings about conflict, disaster, and decay that are so universal they can fit almost any period of crisis. Her prophecies are like a mirror, reflecting our own deepest fears right back at us. So, are Baba Vanga's visions for America really unfolding? Or are we just living through a chaotic time and using her words as a way to make sense of it all? Maybe the answer isn't as important as the question itself. Her story forces us to look critically at the world, at the divisions tearing us apart, the environmental crises we face, and the stability we so often take for granted. In the end, Baba Vanga's legacy might not be that of a perfect prophet who saw the future. Maybe it's that of a cautionary voice from the past, reminding us that the future isn't set in stone. It's made by the choices we make today. Her visions, whether they were supernatural or just symbolic, serve as a powerful wake-up call, pushing us to rise above fear and division, to face our problems with courage, and to build a future where hope wins out over uncertainty. The path ahead is still unwritten, and the final chapter of America's story has yet to be told. What do you think? Are we watching the end of an era, or just another messy chapter in a long history? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this deep dive interesting, please like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the world's greatest mysteries. Thanks for watching.
This book is your beginner's guide to understanding Scripture. Find peace, build relationships, and discover purpose in today's world. Ready to decode the Bible? Find Bible Decoded available on Amazon now.
If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos.